Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Set Up Your Online Event in 30 Minutes, hosted by Eventtia. We're super excited to have you here, and we hope you're able to learn a lot about creating your first virtual event with us. My name is Jackie Burpee. I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Eventtia, and today I'll be showing you how to create your first event in 30 minutes. So I'll cover sort of all of the basics of our platform, including attendee registration, creating speakers and activities for your event, featuring sponsors on your event page, and designing your virtual stage and website. So we will have time for Q&A at the end, so please drop your questions in the chat. We're pretty much ready. Before we get started, where is everyone connecting from? I'm in Medellin, Colombia right now. I'm from the US, but I'm based in Medellin, Colombia. So if everyone could drop their location in the chat, that would be awesome. Let's see. Greece, awesome. Colombia, awesome. Where else? Lithuania, amazing. Very cool, very international. Cool. Barcelona, awesome. Welcome. Mexico, wonderful. Okay, great. So such a good turnout, so international. That's really awesome for us. Madagascar, amazing. So yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. Great. Okay. Awesome. All right, and actually before we get started, I'm gonna set a timer here so just that we can see how we do with the 30-minute challenge. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is log in to my Eventtia account. And I'll be taken first to my event dashboard. So this is where I can see any current events, any future events, and past events as well. So to create a new event, I'm going to go to Actions here and New. It's important to note that you can also clone an event. So let's say you have an event that you'd like to clone or copy, you can do so as well. So for now, I'm going to create a new event. This event will be called Virtual Marketplace. Let's input our start and end date. So this event will begin on the 25th of February in 2 weeks at 9 a.m. and will end on the 26th at 4 p.m. So a nice 2-day event. We'll of course select virtual, as this will be a virtual event, and we'll input our logo and banner. Okay, great. Next, we'll select our language. So we'll leave this one at English, and we'll input our event website. So I'll call this the Marketplace. Great. And our time zone, we are in, let's say, New York. And you can choose to input a description and budget for your event. This is sort of optional. It's for internal use only. And then we have our sender name and email. So these will default to your username and email. However, you can change those. And this is basically the participants' contact information for the event, and the email and name from which all messages or emails related to the event will be sent. Of course, we'll select active and save. So it's really important to save all of your changes, of course. Okay. So now that we've input all of our basic information, we're taken to our first module in Eventtia, which is the dashboard module. So this module is really useful in seeing some important statistics related to your event. So the numbers of registered attendees, ticket sales if it's a paid event, scheduled meetings if you'll be hosting networking meetings, and website visits. Another really cool feature that I want to mention is the Event Commander. So you'll see this button, Launch Event Commander, in the upper right-hand corner. So we'll click on that, and it's super useful in that it shows us real-time data during our event. So we can see the number of attendees online compared to the number of registered attendees, any live activities going on at that moment, live networking meetings, as well as attendees in those meetings. And then a really useful feature that I want to point out is the live announcements feature. So this allows you to send announcements that are basically push notifications onto the virtual stage. So if there's anything you want to communicate really urgently to your audience, you can do so via the live announcements feature. All right, so let's go back to the Eventtia platform. So the first module that we're going to begin configuring is the registration module. So we'll go into types, and creating different attendee types is really important in that it allows us to differentiate between attendees for our event. So let's say you need to differentiate in terms of pricing or guest lists or the information that they fill out during registration or activities that are available to them. So this is why it's really can be really useful to create different attendee types. So you'll see there's one default attendee type, participants here. I'm actually going to go in and edit that one. However, if you want to add a new attendee type, you can do so through actions and new. So this is a virtual marketplace. I'm going to have buyers at my event. I'll put the limit at 1,000. If you have no limit, you can just leave that at 0. And then some other optional information. These fields down here are pretty important in that they determine how these attendees can register. So for example, if it's a private event and you're only allowing guest registration, that first option will be useful to you. On the other hand, if it's public, then you'll allow public registration, etc. Another important one that might be useful is requires validation. So let's say you don't have a guest list, it's public, open to the public, but you kind of want to filter. So on the back end, you can actually validate each participant as they come through. So I'm going to leave my buyers open to public registration. I'm going to allow them to edit their registration data on the virtual stage. And I'm going to deselect enable use of discount coupons because they will be free. So they will be able to register free of charge. After we've input the basic information, we're going to go into our registration form. So you'll see that there are several fields already uploaded here. The three sort of essential fields are first name, last name, and email. So it's important, of course, that they input their email because that is how they will log in to the virtual stage. Okay, so any of these other fields, let's say you don't want telephone to show up on the registration form, you can hide these fields that you don't want. So we're going to click on this pencil icon to open up this field, and we're going to deselect show in public registration form. So in order to hide any of these fields, you just make sure that these three options are deselected, and we'll hit save. Another, aside from hiding options that are already there, you can create new fields for your registration form just by clicking on new here, inputting a name, a type, so whether it's a text field, unique selection, multiple selection, etc. I won't fill this in, but I do just want to point out this feature filterable, which is really cool. It allows participants to search for other participants on the virtual stage by filtering through their responses to this question or field. So you might put languages, interests, etc. All right, so now that we've filled out our registration form, let's move on to messages. So there are two sort of automated messages that your participants will see. The first is the successful registration message. This is the message that pops up on the screen after they've registered. So they've filled out the registration form and hit save, and this is the message they'll see. So right now it's just that your registration has been successful, very simple. The second message is the welcome email. So this is the email that's actually sent to them, to the email that they use to register to the event once they've successfully registered. So let's say you're requiring validation for your participants. This email won't be sent until after you've validated them on the back end. So one really cool thing to point out is that both the successful registration message and the welcome email are totally customizable. So you'll find these codes below both messages, and they can be used to basically customize the information that's included in these messages. So you can see here, we've already got a code input, hello, first name, your participation has been confirmed. Let's say you also want to include some of the other information, like let's say, for example, they've signed up for workshops. We can copy this code and paste it here, and they'll receive a list of the activities they've registered themselves to. Okay, so now we're done with our attendee type. So we've got that all input. We're going to go down now to attendees. So attendees is where you'll begin seeing your event participants as they begin registering. And it's also where you'll be able to validate those participants if you choose to do so. So you'll see their status basically for the event. So this is also where you'll register yourself. So I'm going to create a new attendee, and I'm going to register myself to this event. All right, and this will allow me to log in to the virtual stage. I'm just going to keep it simple with those required fields. Hit save. Awesome. So we're done now with the registration module. However, I do just want to kind of point out two important sections that can be really useful. The first is communications, which is where you'll be able to create and send mass emails. So anything you want to communicate to your participants, maybe an event reminder or something like that, you can do so through the communication section of the registration module. And then coupons. So if it's a paid event and you want to create coupons for your participants to use, you can really easily create one in the coupon section. All right, so next we're going to go on to program. So this is where we'll be able to create the program for our event. So the first thing we'll do is create our speakers. So we'll go into speakers and create and select actions, new. Great. So the speaker I'm going to input is Mauricio Palacios, who is the CEO of Eventtia. Great. I'm going to upload a photo so that participants can put a face to the name. I'm going to put a little biography and virtual event expert. Awesome. And I'm also going to add his LinkedIn so that participants can look him up afterwards if they wish to. And I'll hit save. Great. So now that I have my speaker's input, I'm going to move on to activities. So I'm going to create my first activity. So we'll give it a name. What's next for the event industry? Start and end date and time. So this will be the opening activity. We'll have it starting at 9 a.m. and it will be half an hour long. So 9 a.m. until 9:30 on the 25th of February. Our speaker will be Mauricio. We can leave available seats at 1,000. And one important feature is allow registration for this workshop. So let's say you want certain participants to participate in certain activities and others no. This is kind of where you can determine that. So you can select which types of attendees will be accepted to this activity, and then also if there's any additional price for those activities for those attendees. Sorry. And so essentially, if you do open registration for the workshops, participants can register or can select the activities that they'd like to attend during event registration. So they'll fill out the registration form and then see that drop-down list of the activities that they'd like to sign up for. Again, if this is like, if you're having an event where you want all participants to participate in all activities, then maybe you just want to leave registration out of the activities. All right, so after inputting the general information, we'll be taken to the virtual stage settings. So this is where you'll configure your streaming type for this activity, as well as a few other add-ons for the virtual stage. So for example, the chat. So we're going to include a chat. This allows participants in the activity to interact with one another, as well as, maybe ask a question, just like you guys are doing now, or answering a question that's been asked by the speaker, etc. So we'll just put chat as our name. Then we can also enable emotion. So this is really cool as it's just another layer of interactivity for participants. They can send little emoji bubbles for their speakers and other participants to see. And then lastly, we have interactivity. So this is a really cool and relatively new feature that allows you to integrate an external app into Eventtia's into your virtual stage for the event. So these three that we have here, allow polls, quizzes, things like that. So it appears as sort of a pop-out tab on the right-hand side of your virtual stage. And again, it's just another added layer of interactivity. All right, we'll hit save. And now that we've sort of begun talking about the virtual stage, let's go into the virtual stage module. So as the name implies, the virtual stage is where everything will be taking place for your event. And the virtual stage module is where we can configure that. So first, we're going to enable the virtual stage. And these first two options determine how participants will log into the virtual stage. So the first is kind of a basic security option. It just requires the email that users use to register to the event. So they input their email and they log in. The second is a bit higher security. Basically, after inputting your email, you will get a verification code sent to that email. You input that code and you log in. Another cool feature that I want to mention is the registration link in the login screen. So let's say for some reason a participant gets directed to the virtual stage login page and they haven't registered yet. They'll see this register here button that they can click and register themselves to the event and then log in. Okay, great. So next we'll go into user interface. So the second tab here. And this is where we can really design our virtual stage. So I'm going to include a welcome message on the login page to welcome to Virtual Marketplace 2021. Okay, and then I'm going to upload some images to sort of personalize my stage. So the first is the background image for the login page. Second is background image for the activities, and I'm actually going to use the same one. Our logo and our icon. So the icon is the little square image that you see at the top of your browser. Okay, we're not hosting networking in this event, so we'll leave that blank. And then the waiting image. So this is the image that participants will see when they're waiting for an activity to start. And then finally, you can choose to customize your color scheme. All right, hit save. Okay, and then let's go into modules. So these are the modules that will appear on the left-hand side of your virtual stage. And there are three sort of core modules that you'll see are already enabled. So the first is My Profile. So this allows you to see and edit any of the information you input during registration. Then attendees and networking. This will allow you to see and interact with other participants of the event. And then also program. So the program is where you'll see the entire program of the event, any activities that are scheduled, as well as, if you're hosting networking, any networking meetings that you have scheduled as well. You can also choose to enable some of these other modules. For example, I'm going to enable the chat module because I'd like for my participants to be able to interact via chat. And let's see, I'm also going to, I'll go back to modules, and I'm going to enable my sponsors module because I'd really like to feature the event sponsors on the virtual stage and for my participants to be able to learn a little bit more about them. And then lastly, I'm going to enable our surveys in case we decide to include a survey on the virtual stage for our participants to fill out. Okay, great. Okay, so now we've got our virtual stage all taken care of. Now let's move on to sponsors, where I'm going to create a sponsor page. So first, I'm actually going to create a category so we can differentiate between our sponsors on the virtual stage as well. So I'll create a new category called Gold. You can also, of course, have silver. You can have partners, allies, hosts, things like that. Great. And then, great. Okay, and now we'll go back to sponsors and click on Actions, New. So we'll create our first sponsor page. So the sponsor is Eventtia. We'll put the amount at $1,000. And now we can really customize this sponsor page. So we'll include our sponsor logo, our sponsor banner. Great. A website, so we of course want to include that. The category. This is a gold level category sponsor, and then where we would like this sponsor to be featured in. So the login page, and then we'll also select all activities as opposed to a custom list of activities. Okay, and I'm also going to copy and paste a description. Great. In addition to this description, I want to include a YouTube video for my participants to see in this sponsor profile. So to do that, I'm going to pull up my video on YouTube and click Share. And then I'll click Embed. And I'll copy this embedded video link. Then back on the virtual stage, on the back end of your event, I'm going to click Source in the description and paste this embedded link. Then when I click Source again, I'll see this video appear as an iframe, and that's how we know we've done it correctly. All right, then I will click Save. Okay, awesome. So next we will go to Files, because I'd actually also like to include a PDF file for my participants to download and view. So Eventtia Overview, I'll select my file, and then we'll put Eventtia Eventtia how-to guide, great, and then save. Awesome. So lastly, let's go into the surveys module. Well, not lastly, but next we'll move on to our website and virtual stage. So before that, we'll add a survey. So this is really, really simple. Rate your experience. Oops, sorry. Name will be Satisfaction Survey. It will be available to the buyers. This will be a survey, and we can click, oops, I forgot to enable it. Great, I'll just enable that. So it will be available on our virtual stage. And then we can go in and add a question. All right, so add a new question. How satisfied were you with your experience? Okay, and let's do a rating. Awesome. Good, so now that we've got that all configured, let's go on to our website, which I'll show you pretty quickly. The website is important in that it's where you'll be able to market your event, and then it's also usually where participants will register to the event. So it's really user-friendly. You'll just see these categorized templates that you can simply drag and drop. So for example, we can create a homepage, we can create a registration page, for example, and we can just start dragging and dropping. So we'll of course include our registration form for the event. We can choose to include a nav bar, for example. We can feature our sponsors here, our speakers, the activities for our event. We can have a nice header with a login, with a button to, oops, sorry about that, with a button to the virtual stage login, as well as registration, etc. So, actually, I'll show you guys custom as well if you'd like to add customized materials, including a video. So you can include that video in the same way I showed you how to embed a video on the back end. Great. So once your website is good to go, you can use these icons in the top right-hand corner to preview your website, and then, of course, save changes and publish that website. All right. Great. So let's go back, and now we're really good to go. We've created our first event. Everything's looking really good. Let's check our time. So we've done this in under 25 minutes, which is awesome. Let's check out the virtual stage that we've actually created. All right, so I'll go to virtual stage here and virtual stage settings. Great. So by clicking on preview, I'll be taken right to the virtual stage. And awesome. So I'm taken to the login page of the virtual stage where I can see that background image we uploaded, my event logo, this login message that I input, the register here button, which will take me to the registration page, which is great, as well as my sponsors. So we've only uploaded one sponsor, but you can see in the banner below, this is where my sponsors will be featured on the login page. So I'm registered to the event. I used my Eventtia email, so I'll log in here. Awesome. So now I'm in the virtual stage. I'm on the main stage where all of our activities will actually be taking place. We can see this background image that I've uploaded. Excuse me. 1 second. Okay, we can see my background image. We can see the logo that I've uploaded. This waiting image, so the image that we'll see when we're waiting for an activity to begin. Again, our sponsors down below, these reactions, so these emoji reactions, I can shoot out an emoji on the virtual stage. And then along the right-hand side, we have our Live Now tab. So this shows all upcoming activities, and then also the chat. So I can chat here with other participants. We also have the local time in this upper right-hand corner. This will automatically adjust to the participant's local time. And then the modules. So along the left-hand side, we'll see those modules that we included on our virtual stage. So the My Profile module, where we can see and edit that data or information we input during registration. The main stage, which will take us back to the main stage where our activities are taking place. The program module, which is where we can, of course, see all of our scheduled activities. And if we're hosting networking meetings, then we'll be able to see those here as well. Then we'll go to surveys, where we can fill out that survey that we've uploaded and send that information to the event host. And sponsors. So this is where we can see our sponsors page. Let's take a look. So it looks really awesome. We have our sponsor banner. We have the category, of course, the website, this logo, our company description, as well as that YouTube video and the file that we upload. So we have our Eventtia overview file as an attachment right there. So this is really looking good. And then lastly, we have our chat module. So this is where all of our, excuse me, all of our public and private chats will be logged. So if we begin private chats, one-on-one chats with other participants, then they will show up here in addition to the general public chat. Another thing to note is that normally you would see the attendees and networking module here as well. Because I'm currently the only attendee registered to this event, I'm not seeing that right now. But okay, there you have it. I'm gonna stop our timer. We have some time to spare, which is awesome. I hope this was informative. I hope you guys were able to learn a lot about our platform and hopefully able to see just how simple and easy it is to create your first online event with us or virtual event with us. So I will open us up to some Q&A. Let me stop sharing my screen for a minute. Awesome. Okay, so any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat so I can respond. So I'm seeing a question from Armando Casares. Will this webinar be available on YouTube later? Yeah, so the webinar video will be sent via email to those who registered to this webinar. Also, we'll offer the video via demand as well. So if you'd like the video, just let us know. All right, any other questions? Maybe questions about any of the modules I went through, anything that I wasn't able to cover or didn't cover for this event. Yes, so if you're integrating, for example, so this question is, can we have breakout in, simulations from Roberto Rodriguez? Yeah, so that's a really good question. It of course depends on the streaming type that you choose to configure for your activities. Zoom, for example, does allow breakout rooms to be held. Well, so if you embed Zoom, for example, into the virtual stage, that feature will be available to you via Zoom and on the virtual stage as well. So people will be able to initiate breakout rooms directly from the virtual stage. Okay, we have another question from Sarah Korak. Is it possible for the participants to access the virtual stage before the event? Is it possible to regulate this? Yes, so the answer is yes. Participants can log into the virtual stage as soon as they've registered. However, the best way to really regulate it is not share the virtual stage link before you want people to begin entering the virtual stage. So you can choose to share the virtual stage link in a number of ways. It can be right on the event webpage, as I mentioned before, or it could be via a mass email that you send out to your participants. So really, it would just be not communicating that, not adding the button to the website, or not communicating, not sharing that link with participants until you actually want them to start entering into the virtual stage. So great question. Okay. All right. Yeah. So a really good. My colleague just mentioned that a really good example of this is this webinar. So we started registration a few weeks back, but we just actually opened up the virtual stage yesterday. Okay, so another question from Armando Casares. If I'm doing a live streaming event, can I integrate it with Eventtia? Yes, yeah, absolutely. So there are a few different transmission options, which we can definitely send you more information about after this webinar. But there are a few different options for live streaming that you can integrate into Eventtia's platform. All right, Ana Paula Enriquez. What are the streaming challenges that you might face when performing a live event? Yeah, so again, this is a great question. It really depends on that streaming platform that you choose to integrate into the virtual stage. And oops, sorry about this. Yeah, so it really depends on what you choose to integrate. Each platform that you embed into the virtual stage or that you choose to use has sort of its own allowances and own limitations. So it's a great question, although it really does depend on the type of transmission that you choose. So again, we can absolutely respond to more specific questions about that or send you more information about that after this webinar. Okay, so another question from Anna. How do you integrate live events? So again, this is, and also, can you embed the live chat of a live YouTube transmission and incorporate it into Eventtia? Will there be a delay between the answers? So I'm not sure about that. I don't have experience with integrating a YouTube live chat. So we can absolutely get the answer to that for you and send that to you after the webinar. And yeah, same goes for the integration of live activities into your event. We have several different platforms that can be embedded into Eventtia. So for example, YouTube Live, Zoom. So we have a lot of different options, and we can send you more information about that as well. Yeah, so a good question by Julio Cesar. Are we transmitting right now via StreamYard? Yes, we are. Yeah, so right now we're using StreamYard via YouTube and embedding that into the virtual stage. Yeah, good question. All right, that's all the questions I'm seeing right now. Does anyone, are there any other questions that we haven't gotten to? Does anyone want to know anything more about the platform configuration? Any questions about the website, registration, anything like that? We're also happy to send you guys, if you let us know, we can send you more information about really specific questions, especially streaming questions, as as I've said a million times, it's so dependent on the type of streaming you select. So we would be more than happy to send you more information about specific streaming platforms. Okay, so I have a question here from Anna as well. What is the best streaming app you recommend for live events? Good question. Again, it depends on what you're comfortable with using and what you have experience using. A lot of our clients, for example, use Zoom because it can, of course, be embedded into the virtual stage, and a lot of people have a lot of experience using Zoom. But it really depends on your license with these different streaming providers, etc. So we can definitely send you guys more information on that after this webinar. So can attendees, I'm getting a question from Armando, can attendees pay for the event through Eventtia? Yes, absolutely. Attendees, we have several different, let me share my screen quickly just to show you guys exactly how you can set that up. This was a free event, of course, so I did not show that. However, in the general settings, so we'll click on this pencil icon below our event logo, and we'll click on settings. So this is how we can connect a payment platform with Eventtia. So we'll scroll down and we'll see the different platforms supported by Eventtia. So these are Stripe, PayU, PayPal, Wompi, and Mercado Pago. So these are the platforms that again, we support and that can be integrated into Eventtia's platform to accept payments during the registration process. However, there's also the option to, if these platforms don't work for you, there's also the option to accept offline payments for your event. All right, so great question. So I'm getting a question from Glenda Gilmore. When embedding Zoom into the virtual stage, the Zoom screen is reduced. So good question. Let's go back to the virtual stage. So this is the size that your transmission will be in. So this square that we see here on the main stage where this waiting image is, that's the size of your meeting. And obviously it will depend on the computer you're using, or if you're connecting from a cell phone or a tablet, it will all vary. Okay, great. Any other questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen again. Okay, yeah, so any other questions I can respond to? Let's see. What types of events are people thinking of hosting? I know there are a lot of people here that are thinking about upcoming events. So let us know, what kind of events are you guys planning on organizing? What are some of the most sort of important features that you're excited about? Feel free to drop your response in the chat. Okay, let's see. Okay, guys. Oh, sorry, I missed a question from Roberto Rodriguez. Sorry about that, Roberto. If I have 10 breakout rooms running at the same time, then we need 10 Zoom accounts. And is this possible? So from what I understand, okay, great, another question as well. So from what I understand about that question, you don't need several different Zoom accounts to have different breakout rooms. However, if you're having several different activities going on at the same time, you do need several different Zoom accounts to be able to integrate those activities at the same time. Okay. And then Ana Paula, are there any virtual games you can integrate into Eventtia's platform? So yes, great question. There are. So there are, I believe I showed you guys, let me show you again. In the virtual stage settings, in the activity configuration, there's actually the option to let's see, to embed external apps into your activity. So let's open up this activity that we created. And in the virtual stage settings, you'll see this interactivity section. So this is where you can embed these game or poll apps or quiz apps. Mentimeter, Slido, and SparkUp are 3 examples, but there can be others integrated into our platform as well. Again, these are external platforms, so you have to have your own account with them. And then through that account, you can create your games or your polls or your quizzes and then integrate them here where it says snippet. And this will appear as sort of a pop-out tab on the right-hand side of your virtual stage. Yep, great question. Okay, yeah, and another my colleague just mentioned, which is a great thing to point out. In addition to this, you can actually add, like I said before, custom modules on the virtual stage. So you can embed videos or external apps via iframes. So for example, with Eventtia, we've done a photo booth with Ubersnap. We've done a photo gallery. We've done a virtual DJ, which was really fun. So you can really get creative with it. There are a lot of different options here. Okay. All right, and then Karen Flores is asking, if I have 3 types of attendees, they will see different activities. So that's a good question. That's totally up to you. So again, you can leave all of your event activities open to all of your event participants, or you can choose to differentiate. So you can create a few different attendee types, and then within the activity configuration, you can decide who this activity is open to. So you'll see a list of accepted attendees based on the attendee types you've created, and you can select who this activity will be open to, if there's any additional price to register for this activity, etc. So really great question. Okay. All right, you guys, so really, really good questions. I'm really so happy that we've had such a great turnout. Again, I hope you've learned a lot about our platform and just about the simplicity of hosting a virtual event with us. If you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We would be really, really happy to answer them, especially any of the questions that I wasn't able to respond to today. Please feel free to contact us, and we'd be more than happy to sort of walk you through those questions in more detail. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, thank you so much, and I hope you'll tune in for the next webinar.